Welcome back to the channel. Today's story takes place in Pittsburgh, where once woman birthday dinner turned into a family humiliation she would never forget. And what happened 22 days later changed everything. My name is Natalie Brooks. I just turned 31, and the worst thing my father ever called me happened at the birthday dinner I paid for myself. Not at home, not in private, not in one of those family arguments people pretend to forget. He sat in a crowded private dining room over candlelight and expensive plates I could not really afford. After I spent 2 extra overnight shifts dispatching emergency medical deliveries just to cover the bill. I booked that room at a riverside steakhouse in Pittsburgh because some foolish parts of me still believe a birthday could reset a family. I thought maybe one good dinner, one elegant table, one night without fighting might make them look at me and finally see a daughter instead of a cautionary tale. My mother smiled that foolish smile she uses when she is about to say something cruel in a voice soft enough to make it sound helpful. My sister had already been drinking and scrolling, hunting for material. My brother, well, the amused look he gets when he knows someone else is about to be humiliated and it will not be him. Then my father lifted his glass, looked right at me, and turned my birthday into a public execution. I walked in hoping for one peaceful memory. I walked out with a sentence in my head, 3 numbers in my phone, and a calm I had never felt before. Before I tell you what he said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far the story would travel. I had invited only immediate family because I told myself smaller meant safer. That was my first mistake. My second was letting myself feel proud when I checked in with the hostess and heard, "Your party is all set, Miss Brooks." For one stupid minute, I felt like a grown woman celebrating herself. Then they arrived. My father came in first, dressed like they were attending a fundraiser instead of a birthday dinner their daughter had scrapped together with overtime money. My father glanced around the room the same way inspectors look at damaged property, already deciding what was inadequate. My mother kissed my cheek, then immediately asked whether the valet had cost extra. My brother entered, talking loudly into his phone about a commercial real estate deal, making sure the entire room knew he was important. My sister came in last, glamorous and late, with that expression that says she expects to be forgiven, because she has always been forgiven. We had barely sat down before conversation started. My father cut it stick, nodded once, and said, "Your cousin, Ava, just bought her 3rd rental property." "3rd? What do you have, Natalie? A rented room in somebody else's attic?" My mother dabbed her mouth with a napkin and added, "We tell people you work in healthcare operations. It sounds more respectable than night dispatch." I stared at her. "I coordinate emergency deliveries for hospital." I said, "That matters." She titled her head like I was being sensitive. "Sweetheart, I'm trying to help you. Presentation matters." My brother laughed into his water glass. "Remember when everyone said Natalie was the smart one? The gifted kid? It's crazy how life works out." My sister leaned back and smirked. "Gifted to what exactly? Burnout in faces? Have you ever sat at a dinner table and realized everyone came hungry for same thing, and that thing was you?" I tried to redirect. I asked about my mother's garden, my father's niece, my brother's latest property closing. It did not matter. They had come with a script, and my role was value. Then my sister picked up my phone. I had left it face up beside my plate while paying a delivery driver tip from an app before dinner. She unlocked nothing. She did not have to. A low balance notification was still on the screen from that morning. She held it up and laughed. "Oh my God, negative $58 on your birthday? Natalie, this is cinematic." I longed for it. My brother was already grinning. My mother actually said, "Chloe, stop," in the same tone people use when they do not want something stopped badly enough to mean it. My father did not look angry at her. He looked embarrassed by me. Then he said the line that split my life in half. "We decided to change our will. Everything goes through your siblings. You would just waste it on reins and bad decisions." My brother let out a sharp laugh. My sister clinked her glass against his. My father rose halfway from his seat and said, to our biggest disappointment, the glasses lifted. The laughter followed. And in that moment, I understood something so clearly it nearly felt holy. They were not teasing me. They were training me to stay small. The cruelest part was not that they mocked me. It was how comfortable they were doing it. My father kept his stick as if publicly stripping me of dignity were just another course in the meal. My mother looked around the table with that brittle hostess smile, eager to smooth the sin without actually protecting me. My brother took over the conversation, bragging about mixed-use development he was flipping across town, saying numbers out loud for effect, making sure every sentence ended with a moral. Winners rise, losers explain. Then my sister decided the low-balance screenshot was not enough. She wanted his story. She pulled up an old photo from years earlier, one I had sent her in confidence when my car died outside a laundromat in January, and I had cried from exhaustion. In the photo, I was wearing a wool cap, mascara mat, sitting on the curb beside two trash bags full of clothes because I was moving out of a basement apartment that flooded. You remember this? Chloe asked, showing the table. This was our family genius in her natural habitat. My throat closed. I had sent that to her because she had texted, "You okay?" I thought she meant it. My brother leaned closer and snorted. "You saved this." She shrugged. Of course, it was agony. That was the moment it stopped feeling like humiliation and started feeling like evidence. Evidence of pattern, evidence of cruelty, evidence that every time I had mistaken access for love, they had mistaken trust for weakness. Then my father delivered the second blow. And let's be honest, he said, whipping his mouth. The monthly transfer stopped tonight. The room went still for half a bit. What's transfer? My sister asked too quickly. My mother shot him a look. My brother stared at my father, then at me. I said nothing, because I suddenly understood I knew something they did not know they had revealed. For almost 4 years, my father had used a joint household buffer account I helped fund during the pandemic. It started as temporary help when his dental practice had cash flow problems and my mother's boutique had inventory debt. Temporary became royalty. I had been quietly covering utilities, insurance gaps, and short mortgage shortages through automatic transfer because my mother always said, "Don't mention this to your brother and sister. It would only create drama." I had believed I was helping the family stabilize. My siblings had apparently believed my parents were carrying me. My sister blinked. Wait, Natalie sends money? My mother jumped in. This is not the place. My father slammed his glass down. Enough. She owes us. Raised her. He turned to me. And if you had any decency, you keep doing your part without making that face. What would you do in that moment? Keep sitting there while the people who mocked your bank balance lived off your hidden transfer? Cry? Scream? Beg? I did none of those. I stood up, picked up my coat, and took my card off the silver tray before the server could run the full bill. My father barked my name. My mother hissed, "Don't be dramatic." My brother said, "Oh, come on, don't storm out like a teenager." My sister laughed and called after me, "Happy birthday, dispatcher." I turned back once. "You were right," I said. "Tonight, this changed something." Then I walked out, paid only my portion plus the room deposit I could not recover, and stood in the cold river air shaking so hard I could barely unlock my car. In the front seat, under the glow of the parking garage lights, I made 3 phone calls. The first call was to the bank's after-hours fraud and account services line. My voice was steady by the time an agent answered, which surprised me. "I need to end all automatic transfer from my personal checking to a linked family household account tonight," I said. The agent asked whether I wanted them paused or cancelled. "Cancelled," I said, permanently. She asked if I was sure, Because the linked account had recurring payments tied to it dating back years. I looked through the windshield at the dark river and said, "I'm sure." She read each one aloud. Electric, supplemental mortgage draft, water, homeowners insurance catch-up, a private line of credit payments. With every cancellation, it felt like another wire being cut from my ribs. The second call was to real estate attorney whose number I set saved months earlier and never used. Not because I was buying property. Because I was terrified my parents had tied me more deeply into their financial mess than they admitted. His voicemail said emergency consults would be returned first thing in the morning. I left a message asking him to reveal my exposure to anything connected to that household accounts, any beneficiary designations, any signature authorizations I may have stupid agreed to during family emergencies. I did not cry while living. That mattered to me. The third call was not practical. It was personal. I called my supervisor at a logistic firm, a woman named Denise, who had once told me, "You do not have to explain your family to me to deserve a better life." She answered on the second ring because night shift people understand emergency voices. I told her I was fine, which was a lie. Then I told her I needed more hours if any opened up because I was done underwriting all the people's illusions. She was quiet for a second, then said, "Come in early tomorrow. There's a lit dispatcher opening on the hospital route team." Apply. That night, I lay in my rented room listening to the heater click on and off and thought about how many years I had confused endurance with loyalty. Every tick of the old world clock sounded like a sentence. Not your job, not your job, not your job. By morning, my family had sent 23 texts. My mother asked why I had embarrassed them by leaving. My sister sent a laughing selfie from the restaurant with the caption, "You really made your own birthday wit." My brother what? That was joking about the will. "Grow up." My father sent one line, "You will regret acting like this." I did not answer any of them. Instead, I made the alternate. By noon, I knew more truth than I had learned in 4 years of family updates. My automatic transfer had not merely helped with groceries or temporary bills. They had repeatedly prevented missed mortgage payments on my parents' house. A private credit line in my mother's name had been serviced from that same pool. And 2 months earlier, my father had attempted to list me as a contingent guarantor on a refinance package that had never finalized only because one page was missing my signature. The alternate slid the papers across the desk and said, "You need distance immediately. Could you cut off the people who raised you if you found out they had been quietly building parts of their survival on your silence?" That was the question sitting in my chest when I made the next decision. I moved my savings, tiny as they were, into a new bank. I changed every password. I removed myself from every shared login I had ever been guilted into joining. Then I started looking for a place to live that did not feel like an apology. The next 2 weeks were the most exhausted and most alive I had felt in years. I worked double shifts, trained for the lead dispatcher interview, and learned more about escrow, pre-approval letters, and credit repair than I had learned in the last decade about my own worth. The irony was almost funny. The daughter they mocked for not being in real tech managed realty software, crisis escalations, hospital timing windows, and driver chains across 3 counties every single night. Once I stopped spending my money saving my parents from consequences, my finances stopped bleeding. They were still fragile, but for the first time, they were mine. Denise helped me rewrite my resume. The alternate referred me to a mortgage broker who did not treat me like a joke. A nurse manager from one of the hospital offered to be a professional reference after I solved A snowstorm rerouted that kept neonatal equipment moving during a roll closer. Piece by piece, my life started answering back to every insult from that dinner. Then I found it, not a mansion, not a mansion, not some fantasy revenge house, but a narrow brick row home on a quiet hill in Pittsburgh with chipped steps, strong bones, and a kitchen window facing east. The broker wanted me to stay realistic. I did. I offered below asking, negotiated hard, and nearly walked when the inspection found plumbing issues. I was not buying status, I was buying exits. The day I got conditional approval, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from my mother. Her voice was sweet in the way poison can be sweet. Just checking in, honey. Dad's been stressed. You know how he gets? Also, the household account seems off. Did the bank make an error? I deleted it. 2 hours later, my father called from a number I did not know and left a message that sounded less like anger and more like alarm. Natalie, call me back. There's been some kind of disruption with automatic payments. I deleted that too. I did not tell them I was under contract. I did not tell them I got the lead dispatcher promotion. I did not tell them that the same week they were still retelling this restaurant story as if I had embarrassed myself. I was signing documents that would remove me from their shadow for good. Instead, after closing, I posted one photo. Just a brace key on my open palm in front of a red doll, captioned, "Home is where I finally belong." The reaction was immediate. My sister texted first. "What do you mean, home?" Then my brother. "Did you serious buy a place without telling the family?" Then my mother, escalating straight to my martyrdom. "How could you do this while we're drowning?" My father sent 6 messages in 9 minutes, each angrier than the last, ending with, "Call me now. This affects all of us." That line told me everything. Not "we miss you." Not "are you okay?" Not "I'm sorry." Just "this affects all of us." By the end of the day, I had 47 missed calls and a stream from texts ranging from blame to begging. My mother wrote, "Do you want us to lose the house?" My sister sent, "Dad says the bank is calling." My brother wrote, "At least answer like an adult." I stared at the screen, then put the phone face down on my unpacked counter and kept wrapping plates in cabinet paper. Silence had become my first real boundary, and they were panicking because it worked. 22 days after that birthday dinner, the total number of texts hit 158. That was the number in the hook, but the number only mattered because of what sat underneath it: desperation. Once the transfer stopped, the house of cards did not wobble. It collapsed. My father had spent years performing financial superiority while living in rolling areas. The mortgage had been patched too many times. The line of credit tied to my mother's boutique inventory was overextended. My brother, the family success story, had not been as liquid as he bragged. He was leveraged. My brother, the family success story, had not been as liquid as he bragged. He was leveraged into 2 commercial projects and had been borrowing reputation to look richer than he was. My sister's luxury SUV was leased through a friend's dealership connection and already late. For years, my quiet monthly support had not just helped, it had disguised structural failure. The first real crack came when the bank initiated final notices on the mortgage shortage and the insurance draft bounced. Then my father missed payroll at the practice for part-time staff, which traveled through the local gossip network faster than he ever imagined. My mother's boutique lost a supplier account because invoices were behind. My brother's vending deal stalled when he could not produce a breach amount he had privately assumed he could suffer from family sources. Chloe, who used to laugh at my rented room, suddenly posted 3 designer bags for sale online within a week. And the social parts that may have hurt them most. My parents have spent years telling friends that Grant was the powerhouse, Chloe was the darling, and I was the unstable one they worried about. But when people started noticing collection notices, concert events, and sudden withdrawals from country club dinners, the story got harder to maintain. One of my mother's friends called me under the pretense of checking my mental health and accidentally told me everything. Your parents are saying they don't understand why you abandoned them when they have done so much for you. Your parents are saying they don't understand why you abandoned them when they have done so much for you. I almost laughed. Abandoned them? I had been subsidizing them. Then Michael called, not texted, called. His voice was thin in a way I had never heard before. Natalie, listen, I know things got ugly, but Mom and Dad are in real trouble. I let him speak. The bank may move faster than expected. Dad's practice is under pressure. Chloe's car situation is a mess. We need to sit down and figure this out as a family. I asked one question. When you called me washed out at my birthday dinner, was that before or after you knew my money was keeping your parents afloat? Silence. Then he exulted. I didn't know everything. You knew enough to love, I said. He changed tactics. Fine, we were wrong. Are you happy now? It was such a strange question, as if my choice existed only in relation to their crisis. I'm peaceful, I said. That's new. He got angry then, because entitlement often wears Grape's clothes until it realizes begging it's not working. You are being selfish. Family help each other. I nearly said nothing. Then I remembered the winter I had texted him asking to borrow $500 when I needed an urgent dental procedure after cracking a molar on a night shift. He had replied, You are an adult. Figure it out. So I repeated it back to him, word for word. He recognized it instantly. That's low, he said. No, I answered. What was low was toasting me as your biggest disappointment while taking money that came from my third shift overtime. The call ended with him saying, You were going to let them lose everything. I looked around my small kitchen at the second-hand stools, the patched plaster, the row of mugs I bought at a thrift store, and understood the truth at last. I was not making them lose everything. I was simply no longer volunteering to lose everything for them. A month later, I sat on my kitchen table before sunrise, the east window turning pale gold, and wrote a letter to the version of me who would one day wonder whether living had been cruel. Dear future Natalie, if guilt comes back wearing your mother's voice, remember the steakhouse, remember your father raising a glass over your head, remember your sister using your worst moment as party entertainment. Remember your brother laughing while you hid the money paid their bills. Remember that the word disappointment was never diagnosis. It was weapon. They used it because they needed you ashamed enough to stay useful. By then, the fallout had become public in the small, vicious way community fallout always does. The parents were negotiating a forced sale rather than a clean rescue refinance. My mother had closed the boutique temporarily, which usually means forever. My mother had closed the boutique temporarily, which usually means for them. My mother had closed the boutique temporarily, which usually means forever. My brother lost stale deal and, according to someone who knew someone, had to unload one of these properties below that what? My mother had closed the boutique temporarily, which usually means forever. My brother lost the store deal and, according to someone who knew someone, had to unload one of his properties below what he claimed it was worth. Chloe gave up the SUV and moved into a friend's condo after pretending online that she was trying a minimalist reset. My salary went up. I painted the kitchen myself, badly but proudly. I planted herbs in cheap ceramic pots. I slept without waking in panic to check whether some family emergency had just landed on my phone. And when people asked what I did for work, stopped translating it into prettier. And when people ask what I did for work, I stopped translating into prettier language. I ran overnight logistics for medical deliveries. I said, if I do my job right, hospitals get what they need on time. The right people respected that instantly. The wrong people did not matter anymore. I also started writing, not a book deal, not some dramatic movie monologue, just essays at first. Not about financial enmeshment, about daughters raised to be by God plans, about how public humiliation inside a family often hides private dependency. The response shocked me. Woman wrote from Ohio, Arizona, Georgia, Ontario. Men wrote too. Nurses, teachers, warehouse managers, a guy caring for his mother with 3 brothers who only showed up to criticize. They all said the same thing in different words. I thought I was the only one. That is the real ending, I think. Not that they panicked, not that the text peeled up, not that the people who called me a disappointment finally had to look at the math. The real ending is that I stopped participating in a story written to keep me small. The real ending is that I stopped participating in a story written to keep me small. The real ending is that I learned family can be the first place you are taught to abandon yourself. And sometimes adulthood is the long, painful process of taking yourself back. So here is the lesson I once left behind in the story. You do not owe your family a version of your life that requires your humiliation as friends. You do not owe endless access to people who only valued you when you were useful. Love that demands secrecy, self-erasure, and financial bleeding is not love. It is control with a sentimental accent. I used to think cutting ties meant I was heartless. The truth is, refusing to cut ties was what nearly destroyed me. And if you are hearing this now while sitting in your own version of that dinner table, let me say something clearly. The role they assigned to you is not your identify. Being the failure, the difficult one, the ungrateful child, the disappointment. Those labels often say more about the family system than about the person carrying them. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step away long enough for the truth to collapse without your support. My father called me a disappointment at my own birthday dinner. 22 days later, they panicked. Not because I wanted them, because I stopped rescuing them. There's a difference. And if you made it this far, I want to ask you one thing. If you were in my seat that night, would you have stayed or would you have walked out too? Comment one word. Live if you would cut the cult, or stay if you think family should always get one more chance.